Stanley Kubrick is known for his precision when it comes to filmmaking, whether that was in production design, costuming, or his camera work. He's personally one of my favorite directors and someone that I aspire and look up to pretty much, and the reason why I want to do the work that I do. The camera work and the composition is particularly what I'll be focused on today. We're especially interested in the tracking shot. So the tracking shot is used for a number of reasons, but Kubrick really uses it to follow a character within a space of a scene, often reflecting their emotions or power dynamics between their characters, other characters, and the overall mise-en-scene. So Kubrick used pretty much a whole bunch of variety of different camera tricks and techniques within his films and tracking shots as well. But we're actually going to focus particularly on 3 films today: A Clockwork Orange, The Shining, and Plaza Glory. Honestly, one of the best movies ever made, in my opinion. He's the GOAT. He's definitely one of my favorites. But before we look into these films, we first need to look at the way that Kubrick frames his shots and other shots. So he uses horizontal leading lines to actually point the camera and the eye towards a specific point of interest. So as we can see here in A Clockwork Orange, we follow Alex through the rooftops. This sets up Alex that he's in this really big world trying to find his way. The composition here uses to show him small competitive buildings behind him, but he's a confident character. He's able to find his way through. That's told through the production design and through the costuming, which we don't really get a glimpse of here, but we see later on. The horizontal leading lines leads our eyes to the building on the right as it goes from camera left to camera right. And then there's plenty of headroom, and this further creates the immersion between him and the background. And then this tracking shot leads him into the space with purpose and with poise as well. However, in the secondary clip that we're going to have a look at, Alex goes in through the shop, and he's without his droogs at this stage as well, after he's just beaten up an old man with them in I think it's in a pipeline or something like that. And he follows it through the wonders and the weirdness of the store, but it's held at a slightly lower angle, pointed up at him, conveying that he's got a lot of power here. He confidently walks through the room with the horizontal leading lines, drawing our eyes directly through to him. The blocking he has him coming towards the camera, so we don't actually know what's in front of him or what he's looking at. So this creates the tension of the character, that power dynamic, and we want to know where he's going and what he's looking at. This creates intrigue, keeps the audience guessing on what he'll do next and how he will abuse his power within the society that has been portrayed and within his droogs as well. He uses this scene early on to establish that Alex is confident and believes himself and everyone else in the room, and then they know what he wants. He has intent, and he walks directly through to what he wants. He's not meandering, he's never kind of questioning, he's very forward front, and the use of direction here definitely contributes to that. So next up, we have some of the most iconic tracking shots in cinema history, in my opinion, in the 1980s film The Shining. So here we see Wendy walking through the Outlook, and so these 2 shots cut between Wendy and Danny. So we first start off with Wendy. She's wearing kind of neutral colors, not really blending in super well with the background, but she is. And the leading lines here, the camera's kind of outside of the room, and it directs our eyes to where she's going. So it's almost like the camera is trucking on that horizontal movement, and it's almost like another outworldly force is kind of following her through the Outlook Hotel, further adding to that kind of supernatural force and the elements throughout the movie, getting that more unease of what the Outlook Hotel actually is and the horrors that it can have. And then the shot cuts through to Danny on his stroller, navigates through the hotel and the pattern of the cabinets and down the hallway. Now it goes from the main space into the kitchen, and the use of the production design goes from really colorful into the kind of the drab of the kitchen. So it's almost like he's crossing into a separate universe and a separate entity while he's on the stroller. Now it uses sound design and it gives the sound design as well, and it gives the audience an eerie feeling that something's gonna pop up, and the camera's almost following Danny rather than Danny following the camera, if that makes sense. And then it follows it through, goes through to room 237, which is where that creepy old lady in the bathtub is, and then it cuts between him and the camera, and he knows kind of something's up. He goes to open the door, and then it doesn't open. And then the low angle used here basically creates that over the shoulder POV shot. So the Steadicam was actually invented only a couple of years before this, so it's probably one of the first movies to use this shot here. And the background, as I was mentioning before, Danny's kind of wearing like an orange ready cardigan, and the background and the production design is contrasted to that. So it's almost like he's getting himself into something deadly and horrific, and it also shows the grand scale of the Outlook Hotel as well. And the last shot that we're going to look at is actually in Paths of Glory. So we follow Colonel Dax as he walks through the trenches with his troops on both sides. It starts off with the troops, so you can tell that someone's walking in through the troops, and then it cuts back through to him. And this is actually the first time that you see Colonel Dax, and all eyes are on him. The horizontal leading lines, the fact that the troops are looking at him, the way that the trench is designed and implemented as it was back in those times, all lead your eyes on through to Dax as him being the center, the point of the interest, the symmetrical framing that Kubrick uses to be able to show the character. Now, it starts off in this film. It's the first time you actually see him. You expecting him to be of higher power, and it's like he's got confidence, he knows what he wants, but really as the movie progresses forward, it's obviously very apparent that he's working against the system and that he's not actually getting what he wants. So it kind of cuts back between Colonel Dax and through to the rest of the crew there. It actually uses a dolly shot with rubber wheels, so it doesn't have the tracks in the ground, as you can see in the image here, which I think is super important. And the camera is slightly below eye line just to kind of assert that power, but not too much power there. So overall, in these three shots, we can see that Kubrick uses the tracking shot with precision. He knows exactly what he's talking about. I mean, he was a photographer before he was a director as well, very interested in photography. Every shot is thoroughly thought out in terms of composition, blocking, staging, production design, and even intertwined with the use of sound to probably immerse in the motion of the character and get us into the character's head. The use of the trucking shots and also the dolly shots in these particular scenes really kind of immerse us in who these characters are, introducing us to the characters and getting us immersed in his films, which I think Kubrick was really, really good at. So the use of leading lines and angles further emphasizes this, but all his work has similar character techniques outside of the tracking shot. His precision and often militaristic attention to detail has marked him down as one of the greatest directors